The Unsolved Years. It is 1986. South Korea is changing. The economy is growing, cities are expanding. But in the countryside, in small farming towns, life moves slowly. Rice fields stretch between villages, dirt roads connect clusters of homes. Streetlights are rare. At night, the darkness is complete. This is the story of Lee Choon-jae, a man who killed women in the rural areas near Hwaseong, a city south of Seoul. A man who was not caught for decades. A man whose crimes became one of the most infamous unsolved cases in South Korean history. Until they were not unsolved anymore. The first murder happened in September 1986. A woman was found dead in a field near her home. She had been strangled. There were signs of sexual assault. The crime scene was outside, exposed to weather. Evidence was limited. Police investigated. They had no suspects. The case went cold. 2 months later, another woman was found. Then another, and another. Between 1986 and 1991, 10 women were killed in the Hwaseong area. All were attacked at night. Most were strangled. Some were found in fields, some in their homes. Some were never found at all, only their remains discovered later. The victims ranged in age from 13 to 71. There was no clear pattern in who was chosen, just location, just opportunity. The murders caused fear. Women stopped going out after dark. Families locked their doors. Villages organized patrols. The police came under pressure. The public demanded answers. The government sent more officers. A task force was formed. Thousands of people were questioned. DNA technology was not yet available in South Korea. Fingerprints were collected. Footprints were measured. Witnesses were interviewed. But there were no clear leads. The investigation became desperate. Officers worked long hours. They chased rumors. They followed false confessions. Men were detained and released. The case was on the news constantly. It was discussed in newspapers, in homes, in schools. But no arrest was made. The murders continued. Then, in 1991, they stopped. No explanation. No final victim. Just silence. Police believed the killer had died, or moved, or been imprisoned for another crime. The case remained open, but it faded from public attention. Years passed. The families of the victims waited. They had no closure, no answers, just absence. In 1988, during the height of the investigation, a woman was murdered in a similar manner near Hwaseong. A man named Yoon was arrested. He was a low-level criminal. He had a history of minor offenses. Under interrogation, he confessed. He said he killed the woman. Police believed him. He was tried, convicted, sentenced to life in prison. The case was considered solved, but it was not connected to the other murders. Yoon's conviction was treated separately. He remained in prison for decades. Lee Choon-jae was born in 1963. He grew up in the Hwaseong area. He was not remarkable. He worked odd jobs. He married. He had children. In 1994, 3 years after the Hwaseong murders stopped, Lee was arrested for a different crime. He had killed his sister-in-law. He was convicted, sentenced to life in prison. He showed no emotion during the trial. He did not appeal. He went to prison quietly. For 25 years, Lee Choon-jae served his sentence. He worked in the prison factory. He followed the rules. He did not cause problems. He was a model prisoner. No one suspected he had done anything beyond the crime he was convicted for. In 2019, South Korean police reopened the Hwaseong case. Advances in DNA technology made it possible to re-examine old evidence. Samples from the crime scenes were tested. A match was found. The DNA belonged to Lee Choon-jae. He was already in prison. He had been there since 1994. He had been imprisoned the entire time the case remained unsolved. Police questioned Lee. At first, he denied involvement. Then, slowly, he began to talk. He admitted to killing women in the Hwaseong area. He described the crimes in detail, details that had never been made public. He said he had killed 10 women. The number matched the known victims. He was calm when he spoke. He showed no remorse. He said he did it because he wanted to. No other reason. Lee also confessed to other murders, cases that had never been connected. A total of 14 women, killed between 1986 and 1991. All in similar ways, all at night, all in rural areas. He had been 23 when he started, 28 when he stopped. He stopped because he was afraid of being caught, not because he wanted to.
The confession shocked the country. The Hwaseong murders had been unsolved for more than 30 years. They had been the subject of books, documentaries, and a famous South Korean film called Memories of Murder. The case had become a symbol of failure, of mystery. And now, it was solved by a man who had been in prison the entire time. But there was another shock. Lee's DNA also matched evidence from the 1988 murder, the one Yoon had been convicted for, the one Yoon had confessed to. Lee admitted he had killed that woman too. Yoon had not. Yoon had been innocent. He had spent 20 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. He had confessed under pressure, under interrogation that lasted for days. He had said what police wanted to hear, and he had been believed. Yoon was released in 2009 after a retrial found insufficient evidence, but he had already served 2 decades. His life had been taken from him. When Lee's confession was made public, Yoon's lawyers requested compensation. The case became a symbol of investigative failure, of forced confessions, of a system that prioritized closing cases over finding truth. Lee Choon-jae could not be charged with the Hwaseong murders. The statute of limitations had expired. Under South Korean law at the time, murder cases could not be prosecuted after 15 years. That law has since changed, but it did not apply retroactively. Lee was already serving a life sentence. The new confession added nothing to his punishment. He would remain in prison, but he would never stand trial for the women he killed in Hwaseong. The families of the victims were told. Some felt relief. They finally had answers. They knew who killed their mothers, daughters, sisters. Others felt anger. Anger that it took so long. Anger that Lee would never be formally punished. Anger that the system had failed them for 30 years. Lee gave interviews from prison. He was asked why he confessed. He said he wanted to clear his conscience. He said he felt sorry for Yoon. He said he had been carrying the weight for years. But his voice was flat, his expression blank. He did not seem burdened. He seemed indifferent. Psychologists analyzed him. They found no clear diagnosis. He was not legally insane. He understood his actions. He simply did not care. He said he had urges. He said he acted on them. He said he stopped when it became too risky. Not because he felt guilt, just because he did not want to be caught. The case is now closed, officially. Lee Choon-jae is listed as the killer in all 14 cases. His name is in the records. The families have been notified. But the statute of limitations means justice, in the legal sense, was never fully delivered. He sits in prison for a crime he committed in 1994, not for the 10 women killed in Hwaseong, not for the others. There is something quietly disturbing about this. Not just the murders, but the time. 30 years of silence.
30 years of a man living normally, then in prison, while families waited, while Yoon sat wrongly convicted, while police investigated dead ends. The answer was always there, in a cell, waiting. South Korea has changed since 1986. DNA technology is standard now. Interrogation methods have improved. Statutes of limitations for serious crimes have been removed. But those changes came too late for the Hwaseong victims. Too late for Yoon. Too late for answers that could have come decades earlier. Lee Choon-jae is in his 60s now. He will die in prison. He has said everything he intends to say. The investigators have closed the case. The media has moved on. The families are left with what they have: a name, a face, an explanation that does not feel like enough. The Hwaseong area is different now. It is no longer farmland and dirt roads. It has been developed. Apartment buildings stand where fields used to be. Streets are lit at night. The darkness is not as complete, but the memory remains. In older residents, in the families who lost someone, in the knowledge that a man walked among them for years and no one knew. The story ends here. Not with justice, not with closure, just with the facts. Lee Choon-jae killed 14 women. He was caught for a different crime. He confessed decades later. One innocent man served 20 years. The legal system failed. Then it learned. And the victims, long buried, finally had a name attached to their deaths. The silence was broken. But it does not undo the years. It does not bring anyone back. It just ends the question. And that is all.